Hello and welcome to another episode of Thick Slices and Deep Cuts. This evening I will be ranking the 14 albums of legendary French-Canadian progressive thrash metal experimental band Voivod. Kind of hard to classify them. I guess that's the simplest way to classify them, as an early thrash band that turned into this progressive avant band. And they're hard to categorize pretty much. But we have limited time, so I'll try and cram as much information in as I possibly can here. So in order to do so, we'll have to get right to it. Now, I will admit I only own 12 of the 14 studio albums, so shame on me. I need to go get those. But this was incredibly difficult to rank. Like I said, they have 14 albums. I kind of knew my bottom 3, my bottom 4, probably even knew my numbers 10 and 9, even though I consider those classics. But my top 8 were just impossible. Even my number 1 I kind of doubted from time to time, but 2 through 8 were just, it was impossible, because much like a lot of my favorite bands, like, you know, I don't know, Rush or Fate's Warning or Opeth or something, this is just one of those bands that has this really nice big catalog, and you can just reach for, like, what style of Voivod am I in the mood for today? And that's what's so awesome about them. You can just pick different albums, because every album has its own characteristic and quality to it. So just an incredibly cool, original, unique band. I don't know of any other bands that sound quite like them. They're very original. And also, before we get started, in my estimation, I've come to the conclusion that they have about 5 distinct phases. They have this early phase, which was like really raw and primitive thrash, like post-apocalyptic, like Mad Max, Road Warrior type themes. And then on their third album, which began the second phase, and it went for, I guess, 5 more albums. And you could call phases within that, but they just went on this really wild trajectory where they really kind of developed their signature sound, I guess you could say. And then after some lineup changes, they went into this third phase with a slightly different lineup for the rest of the 90s. And then I don't know if they ever technically broke up, but they kind of went on hiatus for a moment, and they reappeared with another new lineup in the 2000s. And that was the 4th phase, and now they're currently in with a slightly new lineup again, but they're now in what I call their 5th phase. So they have what I would call 5 phases. You can argue that second phase has phases within that, but okay, so let's get right to it. I think I mentioned these guys, French-Canadian. They came from Jonquière, Quebec. I looked it up on a map. It's so far north. It's like when the train line just finally says, we've gone too far, and it stops. I mean, they were literally the end of the line in northern Quebec. I think they've since relocated to Montreal or somewhere between there and Quebec City. But at any rate, 14 albums. Let's get started. So coming in at number 14, and I actually don't own the CD, but it's their self-titled album from 2003. This was the first one with Jason Newsted of Metallica. So Jason Newsted leaves Metallica, but he loved Voivod, so he became their bass player at that point, since they'd had a lineup change. Their original singer, Snake, had stepped away for a period of time. He comes back, and they do a self-titled album. And I don't think the album's bad at all. I have the least connection with it. It's the music during the J-Sonic, is his nickname. The music during the J-Sonic era is very, like, straightforward. So it's not very progressive, it's not very thrashy, it's just about dialing in a good tone and going for some good hooks and getting a nice attitude out there. And, I mean, by Voivod standards, it's not very progressive or avant-garde or anything like that. I'm sure by the average listener it still seems a little strange and odd, but it's hard to remember many of the songs on there. You know, Gas Mask Revival, Blame Us. There are a couple of moments on there. There are certainly some nice riffs, and the production sounds good. I have it coming in at 14 because that era of the band is fine. It's just I'm just not connected to it. I just don't have. There aren't a lot of memorable tracks from that era. So there you go. Coming in at number 14 is their self-titled album from 2003. Coming in at number 13. I don't know if you can see this. I got 2 on 1 here, but Coming in at number 13, I've got the album after Voivod in 2006. It's called 14. So again, this is the second album in the Jason Newsted era. This one's I guess it's a little better, a little more memorable. The guitar tone's a little meaner. But the problem with this one is Piggy, unfortunately, he's the kind of the mastermind behind the whole thing that drives the creative Voivod engine. He passes away. He dies of colon cancer in 2005. And this album comes out in 2006, so it's a posthumous album for Piggy. But he left, I guess they were working on the album when he died, and he also left a ton of instructions on what to do with his riffs. So, again, it's good. It's just not super memorable, and I guess when I'm listening for Voivod, I do like that they have this era. There's nothing wrong with it, but I guess when I want to hear Voivod, I want something a little more unpredictable and a little, a little more out there, maybe a little heavier, something a little more edge to it. But still a fine album. The last one with Piggy, or so we thought. So coming in at number 13, the album from 2006, 14. Coming in at number 12, somehow, even though Piggy had died in 2005, in 2009 they take more of his riffs, and they put out one final album with Piggy on it in 2009 called Infinity, which is my favorite of the 3 J-Sonic albums. And it's totally, if you like 14 at all, you're going to like Infinity, because the guitars that they got are from that same guitar session. His guitars sound exactly the same on Infinity as they do on 14. But whereas 14, I guess the getaway, there's just not a ton of totally memorable songs on those albums. But like on Infinity, you got Godphones, you got Earthache, Global Warning, Treasure Chase. There are a few more memorable ones on there. So that's, I guess, why I'm going to put Infinity at number 12 ahead of 14. But they're almost about the same, because they're really from the same sort of recording session. So even though Piggy had passed away, they got 2 albums out after his death. And at that point, you're thinking, this is it. That's just the band trying to go, okay, one last thing for the fans, and we're out of material, because Piggy kind of was Voivod, the creative force behind it. So there you go. Coming in at 14 was the self-titled album from 2003. 13 was 14 from 2006, and at 12 was Infinity from 2009. And that pretty much right there finishes what I call Phase 4, or the J-Sonic years, the ones with Newsted. It's fine though. Check it out. It's cool. Okay, at number 11, this is the other one I don't own. And again, I should own it. And it's from 95. It's called Negatron. This began another phase, I guess Phase 3 if you want to call it that. So at this point, Snake leaves the band after the album in 93. And they'd already lost Blackie after an album in 91, and they never officially replaced him. So here they are in the middle of the 90s. The whole thrash thing is over. It's a tough time for metal bands, but they go and get this guy Eric Forrest, aka E-Force. He's a vocalist and a bass player, and like any classic Canadian band, they are reduced to a power trio. And they released this album Negatron, and the albums leading up to it were, I guess you would say, cleaner sounding, more progressive, I suppose. Well, they have this massive lineup shift, and they return with Negatron, and this thing is just a mean, dark, rude album, which I like, and I need to own it. But Eric Forrest he is an angry singer. I mean, he kind of does a little bit of what Snake does, but he's definitely his own person on the vocals. And so this album is probably their most industrial sounding. Not overly industrial, but it just has that vibe, that industrial sort of vibe to the metallic nature of it. And a complete 180 from the albums that they had been doing, especially like the last 2 or 3, especially like the last few albums they've been doing. This one was much meaner, cruder, ruder, all that stuff, heavier. They also were no longer on a major label, so maybe they had less money to work with in the studio, but that's okay. They just, instead of trying to have a polished sound, they just said, okay, we don't have the means for that right now, so let's do what else we do best. So at 11, I've got excellent album. First one with Eric Forrest, the beginning of Phase 3, and the first of 2 that they did with him. I've got Negatron. So, okay, here we go. Getting into the top 10 here. These are all, as if those weren't noteworthy enough. At number 10, this could be somebody's like number 3 or 4 or something like that. But I've got we're going all the way back to the beginning. I've got War and Pain from '84. This is the debut album, the only one they did on Metal Blade Records. It's just raw and underground and just, coming off the rails. At this point, the drummer away, he didn't have double bass, so he's just doing regular single kicks. It's just like punk, thrash, post-apocalyptic, just crude and rude. What else can I say about this? In '84, there wasn't much of this going on. I think, even though this is raw and they haven't really found their sound, I think in some ways the rhythm, that they still carry rhythms from this to this day. They have this rhythm. I call it like the Motorhead Venom rhythm. Like if you've ever heard the song Ace of Spades by Motorhead, there's a rhythm on there. I feel like Voivod carries that rhythm from their first album all the way to their most recent album. It's never really left the band. So some elements are already in place. I mean, Snake is pretty gruff on this, crude, but it sounds like Snake. He's unmistakable, and you've already got Piggy doing a little bit of his like augmented weird chords. Not a ton, but you can tell a little bit. The song Voivod, I think they still play to this day. My favorite on here is probably Nuclear War. So those are the themes. You got War and Pain, Warriors of Ice, Live for Violence, Black City, Iron Gang. I mean, it's a pretty rough and raw album, but there's definitely a charm to this. I mean, I'll listen to this album. I mean, is it as well thought out and recorded as the J-Sonic stuff? Of course not, but does it have an unmistakable charm that you're just not going to be able to capture unless you're back in the early phases of this thing called thrash metal? No, so I mean, this is a classic. So coming in at number 10, you got their debut from '84, War and Pain. Coming in at number 9, I've got the one after War and Pain, their second album and their first on Noise Records from '86. I have Roar. You could argue this is the most brutal album they've ever done. They just ramped up what they did on War and Pain here. And at this point, Away has double bass, but he's not really skilled at it, which adds to the charm because it sounds like this album is totally coming off the tracks. I mean, it's just, it kind of almost makes you nervous listening to it, like they're out of control. How are they going to keep this mess of an album together? That album cover's great, by the way. Totally sums up this album. Korgel the Exterminator, Slaughter in a Grave. My favorite is Thrashing Rage. It opens with this drum beat with double bass. It almost sounds like death metal or something. The Hell Driver, Build Your Weapons. I mean, this album is brutal. If you want to hear the heaviest Voivod, I think even sonically to this day it's the heaviest, but if you just want to hear the heaviest content that Voivod ever came up with, just get Roar and listen to it. It's crazy brutal. It's the second album. It's the last of what I call that early post-apocalyptic, just raw sound. But this is I think I said my top 8 are all classics. I don't know. War and Pain is a lot of people's classic at 10, and I think Roar is a classic. I got it at 9, but I think it's classic. For what it is, it's got that classic charm of early, raw, heavy, brutal music. So there you go. At number 9, I've got from '86, their second album, Roar. Okay, and here's where it just gets. This is where every album I raise up, whatever number it is, doesn't really matter. In fact, my 8 was a lot higher at one point. But at number 8, I'm going with their, I guess it was their 13th album from 2013. I've got Target Earth. I think there's the actual cover. I've got this version of the cover. This is their first one with Chewy, a.k.a. Daniel Mongrain, on guitars. So you think Piggy is irreplaceable. Well, you got somebody that was like a disciple of Piggy. He understood Piggy. He plays like Piggy. He fits right in. He saved the band. He has saved the band. He played on a Gorguts album. He played in the band Martyr. He played in Cryptopsy for a short while. So he's one of Quebec's finest. And they got it. The title track, Target Earth. Plus Capel Come. There's a video for that. That's a cool, catchy, heavy, thrashy, progressive one. Mechanical Mind is one of their best songs they've ever written. It's got a little bit of everything from all the eras of the band all in one song. Archaic. It goes on and on. I think this is a killer album. I think Chewy, a.k.a. Daniel Mongrain, I think he was a godsend for the band. I love this album. It sounds great. They're on Century Media at this point. Yeah, I just dig what they're doing now. It feels like what Voivod's doing now is they're borrowing from all the classic phases and they're just putting their new touch on it. So I just dig the new Voivod stuff. I talk about it more, but I've got a lot of albums to get through. So at number 8, excellent album. I've got from 2013, their first with Chewy. I've got Target Earth, Mechanical Mind. Okay, coming in at number 7, this is a one-of-a-kind album from them. From 91, I've got Angel Rat. This is produced by Terry Brown. Yes, the Terry Brown that produced Rush. And later Fates Warning. In fact, I think he produced Fates Warning the same year. So this is the band. They're getting popular. They're getting success. They're breaking through. So on this album, they go for it. They get Terry Brown, and these songs are got like little folklore, little tales to each song. It's almost like alternative. It's like there's no metal on this album. It's very like melodic. Snake is singing. The riffs are not nearly as strange and crazy, but the songs are still a little unusual. But everything's really nice and catchy. Everything on here is excellent. We have 12 songs. I mean, the intro, you got a 25-second intro, but you've really got 11 songs. I mean, I like all of these songs. I mean, this is a really nice, catchy album. It's probably not what you'd expect from Voivod, but that's Voivod. They don't always give you what you think you're going to expect to hear. So, Clouds of My House is great. Angel Rat, Gollum. There's a song, I think it's called Nuage Fractal. That song is great. That's like the deep cut nobody talks about that I think is awesome. Panorama. I think they still play The Prowl live. You know, this is just a really good, all these songs are a bit shorter. You know, you're talking 3 and 4 minute songs. Really catchy, really melodic, really well done for what it is. And again, Terry Brown is the producer. So it's not like progressive in the sense of like technical and stuff. It's progressive in like the details and the layers and the way they really present really good songs over and over again. And each song has its own little charm to it. So there you go. Coming in at number 7, tough. I could not figure out how to rank this. I just put it right in the middle. As close as I could to the middle because I just didn't know how to rank it compared to the other things. It's so different from the other stuff. So coming in at number 7 from 91, I've got Angel Rat. Okay, coming in at number 6, this could be some people's number 1, certainly a top 3, right? Probably the band at their most popular. Again, I had tough time ranking this. I feel bad putting it at 6, but at number 6 from 89, I've got Nothing Face. Awesome cover. I think this is the band's most popular time, most successful album. I mean, this is where I found out who they were. They have that Astronomy Domine, the Pink Floyd cover. Who'd have thought they would have taken a 60s psychedelic cover and made it happen, but The Unknown Knows is a classic. The title track, classic. Missing Sequences, Into My Hypercube. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It probably should be higher than 6, but I'm looking at my top 5. This is what I mean by Voivod. This is a classic album. This is their first album that's real clean sounding. Very, I don't know if they thought they were being progressive metal at the time, but this is like a blueprint for progressive metal here. I mean, it's a cleaner sound, lots of odd time signatures, lots of tricky, strange guitar things that all work, and it's just a very cool album. I need to get that shirt right there. If I'm going to get a Voivod shirt, get that, or, well, another one I'll get to in a little bit. But, yeah, I feel bad putting it at 6 because it's really a classic album. It's probably in most people's top 3, and it's probably their most successful album if I had to guess. So there you go. Coming in at number 6 from 89, their first clean-sounding album, very much progressive sounding. I've got Nothing Face. Okay, coming in at number 5. This is maybe my surprise one. But when I was making this list, I was like, I want to rank the classics where they deserve to be and the ones that are the most important to the band's career. But then I also have to go, what are my personal favorites? What are the ones I reach for all the time? And that's where Phobos from 97 comes in at number 5. So this is the second one with Eric Forrest on vocals and bass from that third phase. Whereas I did dig Negatron, I thought this album this is by far you know, this is number 5 for me. So I mean, I just dig this album. It's just so dark, and I heard that they recorded on all analog, 70s analog equipment for this. It ties in the sci-fi storyline from an album from earlier years in '88. But just the songs on here, just Eric Forrest, he's just got this weird tone in his voice. He's yelling, he's a little angry, but it's also weird, and it's science fiction sounding, but dark the whole way through. And there's something about the murky vibe on this album that I reach for Phobos a ton. Is it a perfect album? I guess it's not perfect, but I really enjoyed going along for that murky, dark ride that is this album. So whatever the vibe is that they conjure up on this, that's what I love about this album. I mean, Phobos, the title track, Bacteria, Quantum, The Tower, you know, what else is on here? Rise, Forlorn. At the end, they even have a cover of King Crimson's 21st Century Schizoid Man, and that makes total sense that they would cover that song by King Crimson. So they've covered Pink Floyd, they've now covered King Crimson. It doesn't surprise me, come to think of it. It totally sounds like a thrash band that was rooted in Motorhead and Venom, who at this point is just wanting to cover Pink Floyd and King Crimson. It's a cool, strange band. But I like Eric Forrest. I think these albums, for people, get forgotten. You just kind of skip over this phase. Much kind of like how I sort of skip over the J-Sonic phase a little bit. I think people just kind of skip over this phase too. And I say, check out Negatron, but check out Phobos. If you like Voivod to be at their darkest, I mean, I think Roar is their most brutal, and I think this might be their darkest. But, I mean, I can't think of anything else they did that's darker than this one. Maybe Negatron. You know, I think the 2 albums they did with Eric Forrest are pretty dark, pretty mean sounding. So, there you go. At number 5, I've got whatever album this is, from '97. The second one with Eric Forrest, the final one with Eric Forrest, and the last of their third phase. I've got, from '97, I've got Phobos. Okay, man, top 4. I had this lower just because it's newer, but I gotta say it's awesome. I've got their most recent one from 2018 at number 4. I have The Wake. This is their most recent one, also with Chewy on guitars. At this point, they've got Rocky on bass, the new guy Rocky. So Blackie was with Chewy, so that Target Earth lineup was a unique lineup, and then you still had Blackie on bass, but that was the first one with Chewy. So that's the only album where you'll find that specific lineup. But on this, they have Chewy, but now they have Rocky on bass. And Rocky, this band sounds better than ever at this point. Obsolete Beings, this is so progressive sounding. It's just Daniel Mongrain. I think on the Target Earth album, he wanted to keep it a little more, you know, an homage to the older Voivod sound, like the late 80s maybe sound. But on this one, it's just everything is just polished and perfect and so progressive. This has got to be one of their proggiest things they've done. Obsolete Beings just opens with these awesome chords, and it still has the Voivod sound, and they still put some thrashing in there, but they've got orchestration. They've got, at the end of every song, there's like a tail or like a little aftermath thing. You know, the end of Dormancy, iConspiracy. I believe iConspiracy is coming on right as we speak. 3, 2, 1, and here it comes. You know, spherical perspective, always moving. It finishes with this nice big long one with an orchestra called Sonic Mycelium. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But just every song on here, this is like a 54-minute album that you just hit play and let it roll. Mine also has a bonus disc. In 2016, they did an EP with Rocky on bass called Post Society you should check out. And it's part of this. And the song Post Society is awesome. So just, what was the other song on Post Society's EP? Fall. Yeah. So if you can get The Wake, if you don't already have it, get the one with the bonus disc of the Post Society EP and Live from 70,000 Tons of Metal Cruise. Just awesome stuff. I mean, I think a lot of people would rank this in the middle just because it's newer and they don't know if it's a classic. To me, it's a classic. It's so progressive sounding. It's so clean and clear, and this new lineup is clicking on all cylinders. Do the thrash. So there you go. At number 4, I've got their most recent one from 2018, The Wake. Oh man. At number 3, this is probably the consensus number 1 or 2. I got it at 3. I mean, I got it way up there. And I did have it at 2 at one point. At number 3 from 87, I've got Killing Technology. I mean, man, it doesn't get any more classic than this. And look at that logo again on Noise Records. This is their 3rd album, and this is the beginning of that 2nd phase. This is the first album where they found what I call the Voivod sound. I hate to throw around the term progressive, but this is where they get, just everything gets more advanced. It just seems like everybody learned how to play their instruments, from Roar to Killing Technology to Jump. In one year, the jump from how they sounded on Roar and what they came up with on Killing Technology was huge. I mean, it was just a huge shift. You got you've just got songs that are intricate, all these riffs, they're going everywhere. They've got like odd time signatures going on. They've got more effects. They've got, a concept going on this one. I mean, the song Killing Technology, you lose your function. They've got all those like cool vocoder voices, Overreaction, which I think started this whole podcast. Tornado, Forgotten in Space, Order of the Black Arts. They got, they don't. By the way, there's some thrashing. Order of the Black Arts has a thrash beat back in the 80s. It's that fast. Nobody was thrashing really that fast. And there's one moment in the middle of Order of the Black Arts towards the end where they take the thrash beat, the Motorhead Venom type thrash beat, and double it. This is not an exercise. I mean, this album is absolute classic. And even though it's raw, they went over to Germany and recorded with Harris Johns, who did Creator and a lot of bands on Noise at the time. I think he did some Celtic Frost and all that. But he produces here, and while it's raw, it's the kind of raw you like. It still hits well through the speakers, and you can hear everything that's going on. And this is where Piggy really starts to shine. His chords are starting to really... the whole band has elevated their game. Away, who sounded like almost off the rails on Roar with his double bass and having trouble staying tight, is great on here and doing on time signatures. And this is the first album where they got all these riffs per song and it's just shifting and going everywhere. So this is an absolute classic. Like I said, I would, if you said this is the number 1 album, I'm not going to argue with it. This is a total number 1 album. So there you go. Coming in at number 3, I've got from 87, I've got Killing Technology. Okay, coming in at number 2, it might be a slight surprise, but knowing my taste, it's not a surprise to me at all. Coming in at number 2 for 93, I've got The Outer Limits. And I've even got the 3D glasses that go with it. It's the 50s thing. But so this is the end of the big 2nd phase. It started with Killing Technology. By the way, this sounds vastly different from Killing Technology, but it's Killing Technology started this progressive heavy phase that they just evolved into, and it kind of completed that phase with 1993's The Outer Limits. This is cool. This is their 3rd and final album on MCA Records. I forgot to mention that. On Nothing Face and Angel Rat, they had gone to MCA Records, so they were on a major label at this point. And they were getting these clear, clean productions. And this production on here is great. This is also a very progressive sounding album. Fix My Heart, Moonbeam Rider. They cover Pink Floyd's The Nile song. I love that. It's like the heaviest Pink Floyd song. I'm not a huge fan of the album More that Pink Floyd, that song's on, but that is the classic on that album, and they cover it. I thought that was so awesome. And then there's this like total sci-fi thing in the middle. The Lost Machine is awesome. Time Warp is awesome with the tones. I mean, Piggy's guitar playing here is just perfect. And then my favorite song they ever did, it's called Jack Luminous. 17 minutes. It's awesome. So there you go. I'm running out of time here. Number 2, you've got The Outer Limits. Here comes Jack Luminous, which is telling me I got to wrap this up. So at number 1, by process of elimination, an absolute classic from 88, Dimension Hate Trust, their 4th album, their 2nd in this new sound, and I just thought they nailed it right here. They cleaned up the sound a little bit from Killing Technology, but it's still kind of thrashy, but it's just so creative, and it just rolls. Experiment, Tribal Convictions, Chaos Mongers, Technotratic Manipulators, Macro Solutions to Mega Problems, Brain Scan, the underrated Psychic Vacuum and Cosmic Drama. Mine even has a bonus track of Batman at the end. So there you go. That is ranking 14 albums of Voivod. So real quick, coming in at numbers 14, 13, and 12, you got Voivod, Kators, and Infinity. At number 11, you got Negatron. At number 10, you got Warren Payne. Number 9, you got Roar. At number 8, you've got Target Earth. Number 7, you've got Angel Rat. At number 6, you've got Nothing Face. At number 5, you have Phobos. Number 4, you have The Wake. Number 3, you have Killing Technology. At number 2, you have The Outer Limits. And at number 1, I have Dimension Hatros. This has always been my favorite one. I just think this was at that trajectory in their career where I think all the stars kind of aligned as far as stylistically. So this is the one I love to reach for. I also love to reach for Killing Technology. I think those two are that good. If you want to hear them with a little bit of thrash in that classic era, those are the two I reach for the most. And then since I'm such a progger, I love The Outer Limits and The Wake. But I mean, I love Phobos too because it's so murky and dark. And I love all these clean albums like Nothing Face and Angel Rat, and I fucking dig Target Earth, and even the early stuff has a charm to it as well. So, just Voivod, one of the bands I listen to the most these days. What else is there to say about the band? They've got some live albums. They just released one, The Lost Machine. I think they've got Warriors of Ice. They have a few other things out there, but just a classic band. Again, one of the bands I listen to the most just because they're so creative and they're not like any other band. They don't sound like anyone else and they're always shifting. And even if they do something, maybe two albums are kind of similar, like maybe Killing Technology and Dimension Hatros are kind of related. But if they do two albums in a row that are kind of related, you better be sure that the next album's going to be a complete, left turn. Like I said, they have so many phases and different things that they do. So there you go. There you have it. This is all I had. No posters, no shirt. So I just found this old poster of them. I think it's from the Warren Payne era, so this is really early on. Target Earth, The Wake, some extra things here. I guess Killing Technology is the best example of their... that's the classic logo right there. So there you have it. That is ranking the albums of Voivod. I think I got in under the gun as far as time goes. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.